In 1974, we saw an eerie scene. A mother calmly made a wax sculpture in the kitchen while her young son sat in a high chair eating breakfast. Suddenly, the father came in with another son who was kicking and screaming. He strapped this unruly child into a chair. The kid was clearly misbehaving. The angry child scratched his mother's hand, and the mother reacted by slapping him hard across the face in punishment. Cut to the present day, a group of college friends were on a road trip. Carly Jones traveled with her boyfriend Wade, her best friend Paige, and Paige's boyfriend Blake, plus Carly's troublemaking twin brother Nick and Nick's buddy Dalton. 6 friends, driving to a big college football game. By nightfall, they decided to camp overnight in a remote clearing off the highway. The area was quiet, but there was a terrible rotten stench in the air that made them uneasy. Something dead must have been nearby, though they couldn't see it. Later that night, a mysterious pickup truck rolled up near their campsite and stopped. Its blinding headlights pointed right at them. The driver didn't step out or say anything. He just sat there watching them, which was super creepy. Hot-headed Nick lost patience. He grabbed a beer bottle and hurled it at the truck, shattering one of its headlights. Only then did the truck silently back away and drive off without a word, leaving the friends shaken and confused. Later, Carly and Wade rested in their tent. Suddenly, they heard strange movement from not far away. Carly meant to wake Wade to go check it out together, but Wade didn't respond. Worried, Carly had to go alone. She faintly heard the sound coming from behind the vehicle. Just as she was about to move closer, Wade, who was getting up, appeared. Carly instantly sighed in relief. Then the two returned to the tent. But the next morning when they woke, Wade discovered that the fan belt of his car had been cut. Clearly, somebody had sabotaged it during the night. At that moment, they heard Carly's urgent cry for help in the distance. Everyone rushed over and found Carly trapped in a swamp. It was full of decaying, stinking animal carcasses. Among them was a human severed hand. They hurriedly pulled Carly out. Then a man named Lester drove up too. He skillfully tossed the animal carcasses into the swamp. Carly, puzzled, asked Lester whether he had seen the severed hand in the swamp. Lester said nothing. He just walked over to the hand and picked it up. It turned out to be just a mannequin hand. Learning that Wade needed his car repaired, Lester warmly invited him and Carly into his vehicle and claimed he could take them to a town called Ambrose not far away. There was a gas station there where perhaps they could find a replacement fan belt for the car. Wade accepted happily. The other 4 friends took another vehicle and continued on to the football game, planning to meet up after the car was fixed. On the drive, Lester gave Carly a sinister look. Carly felt uneasy. She told Lester that they could walk the rest of the way from this point. Lester, though reluctant, had no choice but to agree to Carly's refusal. Soon, they arrived at Ambrose. They first went to the gas station and found it deserted. Then Carly got a call from Paige. They were stuck in heavy traffic and had to return by the same road to the campsite from last night, and said they would pick them up in town later. Next, the two went to a church hoping to seek help from a kind person. Unluckily, they accidentally interrupted somebody's funeral. Wade hurriedly apologized, but when they were about to leave, a man named Bo emerged. He told Wade he was the owner of the gas station. Bo offered to lend him the tools he needed, but only after the funeral ended could they go to the gas station to fetch them. Wade agreed, but on the way back they were drawn to a House of Wax museum. Although the sign said closed, Wade couldn't resist and took Carly inside. He discovered that the figures made there were not the famous people he expected, but ordinary folk, and they were all crafted by Vincent. Inside, Carly wiped a mirror. At that moment, a figure flickered past. Wade went outside to check. He found no one. Carly felt ever more creepy and terrified. Startled, Carly bolted from the building. Wade saw this and promptly took her away from the place. Then the two arrived at the gas station to wait for Bo, but Bo said there was no suitable fan belt in the shop. However, he offered to take them to his home to look for a spare. They didn't refuse. On the way, Bo mentioned the House of Wax's story. Vincent was the son of the wax sculptor Trudy. Years ago, Trudy's husband had lost his doctor's license because of unethical practice. Then the couple moved to Ambrose, and there, they created many great wax figure works. Later, they had twin sons, but unfortunately, Trudy fell ill with a serious disease that drove her mad and unable to work. Her husband depressed himself. The twin sons were then sent to an orphanage. Hearing all this, Wade and Carly were full of regret. At that moment, they also arrived at Bo's house. Bo went upstairs to look for the fan belt. Wade asked to use the restroom, but he accidentally discovered a strange room. It was filled with animal fetuses and human skin masks. While Wade curiously examined the place, Carly, waiting outside, sensed that something was wrong. She noticed that Bo's truck was the same one that had been watching them that night. A chill ran down Carly's spine. She kept pressing the car horn, and the noise caught Wade's attention. But just as Wade was about to leave the room, the lights suddenly went out. Wade tried to get out, but the door was locked. The next second, a tall, shadowy figure lunged from the darkness, wielding a sharp pair of scissors. The scissors slashed straight at Achilles' tendon with a sickening snap. In agony, Wade crawled to the corner, trying to hide. The man with a covered face stepped forward. It was Vincent, Bo's twin brother, who had been hiding in the house waiting to strike. Seeing that Wade still hadn't come out, Carly called Paige, but Paige and her boyfriend Blake were busy fooling around in their tent at the campsite, so they didn't pick up. Left with no choice, Carly left a voicemail. Just then, Bo walked out of the house alone. Carly immediately asked, "Where is Wade?" Bo first lied that he might be using the restroom, then tried to trick Carly into getting out of the car, but Carly had already figured out who he really was. Bo dropped the act. He smashed the window violently and tried to drag Carly out. In a panic, Carly started the car and threw Bo backward. Just as she was about to drive away, the car wheels hung over the edge of a ditch and couldn't move. Her phone had also fallen somewhere unknown. Everything around her was pitch black. She turned on the high beams, and suddenly Bo appeared again. Carly ran toward the trunk in fear. Luckily, she managed to escape at the last second and ran toward the town for help. Meanwhile, Wade wasn't so lucky. His body hair was completely shaved off, and Vincent strapped him onto a spraying device. Then Vincent started up a machine that sprayed scalding liquid wax all over Wade's body. The burning wax coated Wade's skin. He was in unbearable pain, tears rolling down his face, but he couldn't even scream. He could only watch helplessly as layers of wax covered his body. At the same time, Carly ran into the church. Desperate and terrified, she cried out, "Please, I need help! Something terrible is happening!" But none of the people reacted. Carly stepped closer and realized their frozen faces and waxy skin. They weren't real people at all. They were wax figures. Suddenly she heard hurried footsteps outside. Carly quickly hid herself. Bo came in searching, and within moments he figured out where she was hiding. Carly broke free and ran toward the street, but it was useless. Bo caught up and tackled her to the ground. She screamed for help. A nearby resident peeked through the curtain, then coldly closed it again. In the end, Carly was dragged back by Bo and taken to the basement of the gas station. Bo taped Carly to a chair. Just then, Nick and Dalton's voices echoed outside. They had come looking for her and Wade. Carly tried to shout, but Bo covered her mouth and nose. He then used fast-drying glue to seal her lips shut. After that, he was about to lock the door and leave, but Nick didn't go away. He asked Bo if he had seen his sister Carly and her boyfriend Wade. Bo lied, saying he hadn't. Meanwhile, in the basement, Carly had freed herself and stretched one finger out through the grate. Unfortunately, Nick didn't notice. Bo did, and he quickly used a pair of pliers to snip off Carly's finger. A wave of agony shot through her body. Carly knew if she couldn't warn Nick now, he'd be the next victim. So she tore her glued mouth open in pain and screamed, "Nick, I'm down here! Help me!" In that critical moment, Nick dodged Bo's attack and punched him hard several times. Then Nick quickly locked every door in the gas station. Nick successfully rescued Carly. They tried to call the police, but the phone in that place didn't work at all. Then they heard the sound of a car driving away, so they decided to go out and look for help. They went to the house where the woman had opened the curtain earlier, and to their horror, discovered that the woman at the window was also a wax figure. Meanwhile, Dalton accidentally wandered into the wax museum. He was fascinated by everything he saw, until he found a figure in the corner that looked exactly like Wade. "Wade?" Dalton whispered in disbelief, but there was no response. He gently held Wade's wax-covered face and began to peel off a thin layer of wax. But the wax had fused to Wade's skin. A piece of his real flesh came off with it. Wade was still alive underneath, completely paralyzed, tears trickling out from beneath the wax. Vincent suddenly appeared again and attacked Dalton. Dalton tried to fight back, but he was no match for Vincent. Vincent shoved him violently down the staircase. Dalton crab-walked backward in terror, hands up, pleading, "No, please!" Vincent showed no mercy. With a knife in each hand, he plunged them both into Dalton's neck. Elsewhere, Blake finally listened to Carly's voicemail. He looked terrified as he heard her desperate words, unaware that Paige had already been targeted. Paige was resting alone in the tent when a dark figure crept toward her, thinking it was Blake, but it was Vincent. Paige screamed and ran out in panic. When she got outside, she found Blake already dead. She fled into the forest and soon stumbled upon an abandoned sugar mill. She hid in a corner, trembling. Suddenly, the lights flicked on. The place was filled with luggage and personal belongings, proof that many travelers had been murdered here. For self-defense, Paige grabbed a metal rod and carefully searched her surroundings. Then a sharp pain stabbed through her foot. She had stepped on a trap. Despite the pain, she limped into a garage to hide, but Vincent was already waiting there. Out of the darkness, the metal rod came flying like a spear. Meanwhile, Nick and Carly were searching everywhere for their friends. Nick smashed a grocery store window and stole a crossbow from inside. Just then, Bo appeared like a ghost. The two quickly hid inside a theater. Bo followed them in, counting the wax figures around him. The dim lighting disoriented him for a moment. He walked toward the stage curtain, carefully scanning the area. Eventually, Bo spotted Carly and fired his gun. Nick, hiding nearby, shot an arrow into Bo's arm. They used the chaos to escape. When Bo opened the door to chase them, Nick was already waiting outside and struck Bo hard for a finishing blow. Bo collapsed instantly. Finding nothing useful on him, they assumed he was dead and hurried away from the theater. They reached Bo's house and searched for a working phone to call for help. Inside, they also found files about Bo and Vincent. Suddenly, Bo, bleeding and furious, dragged himself back home. The two quickly hid. Bo yanked the arrow out of his arm and patched up his wound himself. Then they heard a car horn honking outside. Carly looked out the window and saw that Blake and Paige were both dead. Terror filled her face. Bo, enraged, opened the door. Vincent stood there silently as Bo cursed him. Vincent tried to help treat Bo's wound, but Bo pushed him away and shouted, calling him a freak. Vincent said nothing, quietly repairing the wax mask on his own face. From their conversation, it became clear that they were Trudy's twin sons. Vincent was the younger brother. Bo was the older. They had been born as conjoined twins. Although doctors separated them, Vincent couldn't speak and his face was permanently disfigured. Since childhood, he had worn a wax mask made by his mother, which made people treat him like a monster. After their parents died, the brothers returned to Ambrose from the orphanage. But Bo had a cruel and violent nature. Under his manipulation, Vincent joined him in their crimes. Vincent inherited his mother's gift for wax sculpture and turned their victims into wax figures, a twisted way of expressing his hatred toward the world. Soon, Bo noticed a photo that had fallen on the floor. He immediately realized that Nick and Carly had been there. He started searching the area furiously. Meanwhile, the two were trying to get out of the place as quickly as possible, but they accidentally wandered into a hidden passage. They tried to turn on the light inside, but when Nick kept flicking the light switch, he unknowingly revealed their location. The twin brothers exchanged a cold smile, because the ultimate hunt was about to begin. On the other side, Nick and Carly entered a candle-making room. There, they saw Dalton standing motionless. Nick rushed forward, trying to free him, but they didn't know that Dalton had already been dead for a long time. At that moment, Vincent appeared and attacked. Nick and Carly fought back desperately, and during the struggle, they accidentally started a fire. Seeing the flames spreading fast, Nick knocked over a vat of melted wax, blocking the path between them and Vincent. The fire grew larger and larger, and Nick and Carly quickly ran out. But just as they escaped, they ran straight into Bo. The siblings fought back with everything they had. During the brawl, the fire burned a huge hole through the floor. The wax began to melt rapidly, and the wax figures around them started revealing the skeletal remains beneath. Bo went mad with rage as he watched his brother Vincent's precious creations being destroyed. He grabbed Nick by the neck and tried to strangle him to death, but Nick seized the moment and counterattacked. The brutal fight left both men battered and bleeding. At that moment, Carly finally snapped. She picked up a baseball bat and smashed it hard into Bo's head. Vincent then arrived. Seeing his brother lying dead, he let out a heart-wrenching scream of pain. Vowing revenge, he grabbed a sharp knife and advanced toward Carly step by step. Carly ran upstairs in panic and barricaded the door with a wardrobe, but the entire house was made of wax. Vincent slashed once, and the knife cut a hole right through the door. He broke it down and stormed inside. Carly tried to reason with him, saying, "You don't have to listen to your brother. You're not the freak. He is. He's been lying to you all along, making you kill people." But Vincent didn't listen. Just as he was about to strike Carly, Nick appeared in time, and the two men began to fight again. In a critical moment, Carly pulled the knife out of Nick's leg and plunged it straight into Vincent's side. Suddenly, the upper floor collapsed. All three of them fell through the melting structure. The entire wax house was crumbling and melting around them. Carly and Nick landed on the staircase. Carly touched the wall behind the melted wax and realized there was a way out. She signaled Nick to dig through quickly. Fortunately, in the very last moment before the wax museum completely collapsed, they crawled out alive. In the end, Carly and Nick managed to escape. Soon after, the police arrived, securing the scene and beginning their investigation. Authorities estimated that more than 70 people had been killed in the town. Hearing that, Carly and Nick sat in the car, still shaken and speechless. But what they didn't know was, the police later discovered that Trudy and her husband had actually had 3 sons, and the youngest one was none other than Lester, the man who had given them a ride into town the day before. At that very moment, Lester was standing nearby, waving at them with a calm smile, as if hinting that the nightmare was not over yet.